In this world of haste and distraction, we have learned to run. We run toward things we think we want. We run away from things we fear. We run through our days without tasting them. We run from ourselves, hoping that in the rush we might forget the deeper hunger gnawing at the edge of our hearts. But the Buddha did not run. He walked. He walked slowly, with presence. With each step, he touched the earth. With each breath, he returned to himself. And so, this is the first invitation. Slow down, breathe, return to this moment. There is nowhere else you need to be. When the Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree, he did not seek to become more. He did not long to be someone else, somewhere else. He looked into his own suffering. He faced it without fear. And he saw not a monster, not an enemy, but a doorway. The doorway to freedom. What if your suffering too is a doorway? What if all your distractions, your restlessness, your craving, are not signs of failure but invitations to wake up? To wake up is not to gain new eyes. It is to see clearly with the eyes you already have. You do not need to be fixed. You do not need to become better. You only need to become more fully here, more fully aware, more fully alive. The present moment is not an obstacle. It is a refuge. It is the only place where transformation is possible. You cannot breathe in the future. You cannot walk in the past. You can only wake up here. This is the wisdom of mindfulness, not a technique, not a tool, but a way of being. It is to notice the sound of the rain without needing it to stop. It is to feel sadness without drowning in it. It is to hold joy without clinging to it. It is to rest in what is. The Buddha taught that life is dukkha, unsatisfactoriness, not because life is broken, but because we chase permanence in an impermanent world. We chase certainty in a world of constant change, and so we suffer. But when we stop chasing, when we turn inward and simply observe, we find peace. Peace is not the absence of difficulty. It is the presence of clarity, and clarity arises from stillness, not the stillness of doing nothing, but the stillness of deep attention. To be still is to listen to life as it is, without resistance. To be still is to hear the quiet truths that speak beneath the noise. You are not separate from those truths. You are not separate from life. You are not separate from the Buddha. The same nature that awakened him lives in you. There is no enlightenment apart from this moment. There is no liberation outside of now. To seek it elsewhere is to miss it entirely. And so walk slowly, not because you are weak, but because you are aware. Breathe deeply, not because you are anxious, but because you are returning. And wake up, not in some distant future, but now, in this body, in this breath, in this life. The Buddha did not ask us to believe in him. He asked us to believe in our own capacity to see. He did not offer dogma. He offered a path of understanding, of compassion, of presence. You do not walk it by striving. You walk it by letting go of control, letting go of judgment, letting go of the need to be somewhere else. And each step becomes a miracle, each breath a revelation. When you stop fighting life, life begins to open. When you stop chasing meaning, meaning begins to emerge. When you stop trying to be special, you begin to see how precious everything already is. The leaves trembling in the wind, the quiet ache in your chest, the stranger's smile, the breath rising and falling in the dark. These are not distractions. They are the path. There is no need to hurry. There is only the need to wake up. And waking up is not a single moment. It is 1,000 small choices made in the heart of each day. Choosing to listen instead of speak. Choosing to pause instead of react. Choosing to feel instead of flee. Choosing to love instead of fear. The path is not hidden. It is not far. It is here, in the ordinary. So let this be your practice. Walk slowly. Breathe deeply. Wake up. Wake up to the beauty that surrounds you. Wake up to the pain you've avoided. Wake up to the truth you carry. Wake up to the impermanence of all things, and the quiet joy that arises when you stop demanding them to last. Everything changes, everything ends, but in that ending is the seed of beginning. In every loss, there is tenderness. In every ending, the space for a new breath. And perhaps the most radical teaching of the Buddha is this: you are already enough. Not someday, not if you improve, not when the world sees your worth. Now, as you are, broken and whole, lost and found, your life is not a problem to be solved. It is a mystery to be lived, with presence, with compassion, with grace. The world will continue to spin, the noise will not stop, but within you, there is a still point, a silence deeper than sorrow, a wisdom older than fear. And when you touch that place, you remember, you are not your thoughts, you are not your past, you are not your fear. You are the awareness that sees all of it, and in that seeing, there is freedom. Freedom to begin again, freedom to choose a new response, freedom to live with courage, with gentleness, with love. You don't need to escape your life, you need to enter it more deeply, more fully, more honestly. There is no other way, so walk slowly, breathe deeply, and wake up to your life. There is a silent revolution in returning to simplicity. The world teaches us to accumulate, to gather accolades, possessions, knowledge, even spiritual achievements, as if peace could be hoarded. But the Buddha's teachings reveal another way, a way of subtraction, not addition, a way of shedding, stripping away all that is not essential, until only the clear, radiant essence remains. Imagine your mind as a clear lake. When stirred by craving, aversion, and delusion, its surface ripples and the depths become invisible. But when you stop stirring, when you sit, breathe, and observe, those ripples soften. The sediment of fear and attachment begins to settle. Slowly, the water clears, and what was always beneath the surface begins to shine through. Not something new, something always there, the peace of your own true nature. This path is not about becoming someone different. It is about becoming intimate with what is already here. The habits of distraction are strong. We are conditioned to believe that happiness lies elsewhere, in the next success, the next relationship, the next spiritual insight. But look closely. Has chasing ever brought lasting peace? Or has it merely delayed the encounter with your own heart? To walk the path of awakening is to stop running, to stand still in the very center of your life and whisper, "I am here." Not to conquer the moment, but to meet it with reverence, whether it arrives in joy or sorrow, pleasure or pain. To meet it as you would a beloved friend returning home. The Buddha taught that the root of all suffering is ignorance, not knowing who we truly are, not seeing things as they are. This ignorance leads to craving, and craving leads to suffering. But when we begin to see clearly, when we see impermanence in all things, interdependence in all beings, and emptiness in all forms, our grip begins to loosen. We stop grasping. We start listening. And in that listening, wisdom grows. Wisdom is not cleverness. It is not something you read in books or memorize in scriptures. It is a deep, quiet knowing. A knowing that arises not from thought, but from direct experience. To see the impermanence of a flower and still love it. To feel the ache of your own vulnerability and still offer kindness. That is wisdom. And with wisdom comes compassion, not pity, not fixing, but the ability to be present with suffering, your own and others, without turning away. To say, yes, this too belongs. When we awaken to our shared fragility, our hearts open, the lines between self and other dissolve. The pain of the world becomes your pain. But so does its beauty. Compassion is not soft. It is fierce. It is the courage to love in a world that wounds. It is the strength to sit beside someone's sorrow and not try to change it. It is the willingness to be broken open again and again, and still say yes to life. You may wonder, how do I live this way? How do I walk slowly in a world that demands speed? How do I breathe deeply in the noise of endless doing? How do I wake up when it's easier to numb, distract, and sleepwalk through the days? You begin with a single breath. One conscious breath can break the trance of unconscious living. You do not need to fix your entire life before you wake up. You need only to begin, and you begin by noticing your breath, your body, your thoughts, your emotions, the tension in your shoulders, the tightness in your chest, the way your hands grasp or tremble. You begin by turning toward, not away. This is not a passive path. It is not about retreating from life, but entering it more deeply. The Eightfold Path, the Buddha's map for liberation, is a path of engagement, right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. These are not rigid commandments. They are invitations to live with integrity, clarity, and love. Right view begins with understanding. All things arise and pass. There is no permanent self. Everything is interwoven. Suffering is part of life, but so is the end of suffering. Right intention is the heart's resolve to respond with kindness instead of fear, compassion instead of anger, generosity instead of grasping. And what of speech? Words shape the world. Each time you speak, you plant seeds. Are they seeds of truth or deception? Are they born of compassion or resentment? The Buddha taught that wise speech is timely, true, gentle, and beneficial. To speak less and listen more. To speak only when the heart is clear. This too is practice. Right action and right livelihood guide our behaviors in the world. To live in a way that causes the least harm. To choose work that aligns with values, that supports life rather than exploits it. These are not restrictions. They are compass points. They remind you that your life is a ripple in the stream of existence. What you do matters. Effort too has its place, but not the strained, perfectionistic effort you've been taught. This is not about grinding your way to awakening. This is the joyful effort of tending to the garden of your being, removing the weeds of unwholesome habit, watering the seeds of love, patience, generosity. It is the steady, persistent returning again and again to what matters, and mindfulness, the heart of the path, the light that illuminates every other step. Mindfulness is not about controlling your mind. It is about befriending it, sitting beside your joy and your fear, your longing and your sorrow, and saying, "You are welcome here." When you bring attention to your experience without judgment, something softens, something heals, something awakens. Concentration, finally, is the capacity to dwell deeply in the present, to quiet the scatter of the mind, not to escape reality but to see it more clearly. A concentrated mind is like a still pond. It reflects truth without distortion, and when the mind is clear, the heart opens, and when the heart opens, the path becomes clear. You may stumble, you will fall, there will be days of confusion, doubt, loneliness. This too is part of waking up. The path is not linear. It spirals. Sometimes you will feel lost, but remember, even the lost steps are part of the journey. Even the brokenness is holy. What matters is not how fast you go, but how deeply you live. And so I say again, walk slowly, breathe deeply, wake up. Not by becoming someone else, but by remembering who you are, a child of the earth, a wave on the ocean, a note in the song of existence. You are not separate. You never have been. The light you seek is the light that is already shining in your chest. Let go of the need to arrive. There is no finish line, no final perfection, only this breath, this moment, this chance to be fully alive, and that is enough. There is great strength in yielding. Just as the bamboo bends in the wind yet does not break, The awakened heart knows how to flow with life, not against it. We are taught to be unshakable, to stand firm, to resist pain and misfortune with clenched fists. But what if power lies not in resistance, but in flexibility? What if awakening means learning to bow, not in defeat, but in reverence? Suffering often comes not from what happens to us, but from the way we fight against it. We argue with reality. We demand that life match our expectations, our plans, our desires. But life, in its infinite wisdom, does not bend to our will. It unfolds as it must, not to punish us, not to test us, but to teach us, to polish the rough edges of our hearts into compassion, to show us again and again that peace is not found in control, but in surrender. When we let go of the illusion that we can force the world to be a certain way, we begin to taste freedom. Not the freedom of having everything you want, but the freedom of wanting less, the freedom of being with what is, fully, openly, honestly, no longer needing to fix, escape, or justify. Just this moment, just this breath. This is the path of humility, not self-hatred, not shrinking, but the sacred recognition that you are not the center of the universe, and that is a gift. When the self becomes less rigid, less demanding, something softer begins to grow. A quiet joy, a gentle awe, a deep reverence for the fragile, fleeting beauty of this world. The Buddha often spoke of joy, not the fleeting rush of pleasure, but the deep, sustaining joy that arises when the heart is free. This joy is not dependent on conditions. It does not come and go with praise or blame, gain or loss. It is the joy of simply being, of breathing, of seeing the light dance on leaves, of hearing the laughter of a child, of sitting silently beside someone you love. To find this joy, you do not need to seek new experiences. You need to see with new eyes, to rediscover the wonder in what you have taken for granted, to taste your food as if for the first time, to watch your thoughts as clouds drifting through the sky, to meet each moment as a teacher. This does not mean life becomes easy. The path of awakening is not paved with comfort. It is lined with truth. And truth is not always gentle. Sometimes it shatters your illusions. Sometimes it asks you to feel what you've buried for years. But there is a healing in this pain, a purification. As the lotus rises from the mud, your clarity rises from the depths of your courage. You will lose things, people you love, plans you've made, versions of yourself that you clung to. But loss is not the enemy. It is the teacher that whispers, everything is passing. Everything is sacred. When you learn to grieve fully, without turning away, you also learn to love fully, because you know nothing lasts forever. And from this truth arises gratitude, not the shallow gratitude of social niceties, but a fierce, unshakable appreciation for all that is. The way the sun rises each morning, no matter what happened the night before. The way your lungs fill with breath, even when your heart is heavy. The way strangers can show you kindness when you least expect it. To be alive is a miracle. Don't miss it by being asleep. Gratitude is not a posture. It is a perception, a way of seeing. You can be in pain and still be grateful. You can feel lost and still say thank you. You can face the unknown and still bow in reverence. Gratitude doesn't deny the darkness. It illuminates it. It reminds you that even in your lowest moments, you are not alone. That even in your despair, beauty remains. And from gratitude grows resilience, not the brittle toughness of pride, but the flexible strength of surrender. Resilience is the quiet vow you make each morning, to begin again, to rise even when you're tired, to try even when you've failed, to keep your heart open, even when it's been broken. Not because it's easy, but because it's true. You are stronger than you know, not because you've conquered life, but because you've endured it with grace. Every scar you carry is a testament to your courage. Every breath you take is an act of defiance against despair. You are still here, still breathing, still capable of love, and that is more than enough. The Buddha did not teach that we should be untouched by life. He taught that we should be deeply touched. So deeply that we awaken, so deeply that we can no longer live numb, distracted, or half alive. To be touched by life means to be pierced by it, to cry when it hurts, to laugh when it surprises you, to feel everything, and to remain present. There is a time for stillness, but there is also a time for action. Mindfulness is not passivity, it is preparation. When you are rooted in presence, your actions become wise, your words become kind, your choices become skillful. You no longer react from fear or habit, you respond from clarity. This is the discipline of awakening, not the discipline of force, but of devotion, the willingness to return again and again to what matters most, even when it's hard, even when it's boring, even when it feels like nothing is changing, because you trust that every moment of presence plants a seed, and someday that seed will bloom. You may never know how your presence ripples through the world. A gentle word, a silent prayer, a patient pause. These things matter. They are not small. They are the fabric of transformation. You do not need to save the world. You need only to love it, one moment at a time. And in doing so, you begin to dissolve the illusion of separation. You realize there is no other, no enemy, no stranger, only fellow travelers, walking each other home. Their pain is your pain. Their joy is your joy. Their awakening is your awakening. This is the truth of interbeing. You do not exist alone. You never have. You never will. And when this truth takes root in your heart, compassion becomes inevitable. Not because you should be kind, but because kindness is your nature. Not because you owe the world anything, but because the world lives in you. Every breath you take is borrowed from the trees. Every meal you eat is a gift from the earth. Every insight you gain is built on the wisdom of those who walked before you. There is no awakening in isolation. We awaken together. We fall, rise, and walk again together. So be gentle with others. Be gentle with yourself. The path is not easy, but it is beautiful, and you are not walking it alone. To live fully is not to avoid suffering. It is to make peace with it. We often imagine a perfect life as one free from discomfort, free from uncertainty, free from grief. But such a life does not exist. What does exist is the freedom to meet what comes with wisdom and grace. That is the true power of awakening. Not the removal of life's storms, but the ability to remain calm within them. The storms will come. Illness, loss, betrayal, aging, death. They are part of this human journey. But they are not punishments. They are not failures. They are invitations. Invitations to look deeper, to soften the hard shell around your heart, to remember that nothing can be taken from you that truly belongs to your soul. This understanding requires courage, to sit with pain without rushing to fix it, to be with the dying without needing to change what is unfolding, to love without clinging. These are not small things. They are the brave acts of spiritual warriors, and you are one of them whether you realize it or not. The discipline of being awake is not harsh, it is tender. It is not about control. It is about allowing life to teach you, allowing the present moment to speak its wisdom, allowing yourself to be reshaped again and again by truth. In the quiet moments between thoughts, between plans, between breaths, you will begin to hear it, the still small voice that has always been there. Not the voice of doubt, but the voice of deep knowing, of remembrance. The voice that says, you are already whole, you are already home. This is the refuge the Buddha spoke of. Not a physical place, but a state of being, a place within that cannot be destroyed by time or touched by the chaos of the world. A place of equanimity, where joy and sorrow are seen as waves in the same vast ocean. When you rest in that place, nothing can shake you, not because you are numb, but because you are awake. And in that awakening, action becomes sacred. Washing the dishes, walking to work, listening to a friend, all of it becomes practice. The line between the spiritual and the ordinary disappears. You no longer wait for special moments. You realize every moment is special. Every moment is enough. Purpose is no longer something you chase. It is something you embody, not a destination, but a direction, not a role to play, but a way of being. Your purpose is presence. Your purpose is kindness. Your purpose is to live in such a way that your very breath becomes a blessing. You may not always feel strong. You may fall into old habits. You may forget. That's okay. The path is not about perfection. It is about return, again and again. You return to the breath, to the body, to this moment. You return not with shame, but with love. Because every return is sacred, every return is progress, and slowly something shifts. The fear that once ruled you softens, the cravings that once drove you lose their grip, the restlessness that once scattered you begins to still. You become steady, clear, quiet inside, not because the world changed, but because you did. You begin to see clearly, not with the eyes of judgment, but with the eyes of compassion. You see your own patterns, not to condemn them, but to understand them. You see the suffering of others, not to fix them, but to walk beside them. You see the world, not through the lens of lack, but through the lens of sacred interconnection. This seeing is not passive. It compels you to act, but not from ego, not from urgency, not from pride, from love, from the quiet power of a heart that knows its place in the great web of life. And so you give, not to prove your worth, but because generosity is your nature. You forgive, not because others deserve it, but because you no longer wish to carry the weight. You let go, not to reject the past, but to embrace what is waiting now. You learn to live with paradox, to hold both joy and grief, to know certainty is an illusion, yet still move forward with faith. You become comfortable in the unknown, because the unknown is where truth lives. It is where all things are born. There will be moments of great beauty, the laughter of a friend, the hush of dawn, the warmth of tea in your hands. Do not rush past them. Let them enter you. Let them nourish you. These are not distractions. These are the teaching. And there will be moments of despair. Let them come too. Do not pretend. Do not push them away. Sit with them. Breathe with them. They are not signs of failure. They are signs of being alive, and they will pass. Everything does. This is the teaching of impermanence, not to depress you, but to free you, to remind you that every moment is precious, that every goodbye is sacred, that every breath is a miracle. You cannot hold on, but you can love deeply. While things are here, you can say thank you. Even as they fade, you begin to understand that even endings are beginnings, that nothing is ever truly lost. It only changes form. The leaf falls and feeds the earth. The body ages and reveals the soul. The relationship ends and reveals your strength. This is the great unfolding. Trust it, and in that trust, something awakens, not outside of you, within you, a light that was never extinguished, only hidden, a peace that was never lost, only forgotten, a love that was never gone, only waiting for your return. So return again and again, with every breath, with every return to the path, return to the truth, return to the present. You are not too late. You are not too far gone. The path is always beneath your feet, just waiting for you to notice. There is no final awakening that ends the path, only deeper awakenings. The more you see, the more there is to see. The more you soften, the more life reveals itself. And what it reveals is not a world that needs fixing, but a world that needs loving. A world aching to be seen, held and honored. You learn to meet each moment, not with an agenda, but with reverence. You begin to understand that presence is not a means to an end, it is the end itself. You stop trying to make this moment into something else. You stop trying to become someone else, and in that stillness, something ancient and tender begins to speak. It speaks in the silence between your thoughts. It speaks in the space between heartbeats. It does not shout. It does not demand. It whispers, "You are enough," not because of what you've done, not because of what you will do, but because you exist, because you are a manifestation of life's longing to know itself. This is not the voice of ego. It is the voice of truth. The same truth that flows through rivers, that blooms in trees, that burns in the stars. It is the voice of Buddha nature, and it does not belong to you alone. It belongs to everyone, to the child and the elder, to the monk and the mother, to the broken and the blooming, to the one who is falling apart, and the one who is beginning again. And that's what this path is, in the end. A beginning again. Each breath a new invitation, each sunrise a reminder. You are alive. You are here. You are still being given the chance to walk gently, to love well, to listen deeply. You are still being given the gift of choosing who you will be in this moment. Not who you were yesterday, not who the world told you to be, but who you are when all masks fall away. Who you are when you are rooted in silence. Who you are when you are not afraid to be seen. Do not underestimate the power of this being. The world may not reward your stillness. It may not understand your gentleness. It may not see the courage it takes to meet life without armoring your heart. But that does not make your path any less worthy. It makes it even more necessary. For this world does not need more speed. It needs presence. It does not need more ambition. It needs wisdom. It does not need more noise. It needs silence. It needs those who have the strength to slow down, to listen, to live with care. You are not walking for yourself alone. Every step you take in mindfulness becomes an offering. Every breath you take in awareness becomes medicine. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, ripples outward into the great web of life. You may never see its impact, but that does not matter. The intention plants the seed, and the seed in time will bloom. So do not wait for the world to be peaceful. Be peace. Do not wait for love to be given. Be love. Do not wait for the path to be easy. Walk it anyway, with grace, with courage, with trust. Let the path shape you. Let it humble you. Let it deepen you. Let it burn away everything that is not essential, until all that remains is your true face. The face that is not separate from anything. The face that has always been here, behind all the roles, all the striving, all the searching. This is the face the Buddha saw in himself and in all being. This is the face of awakening. Not something you gain, but something you recognize, something you return to, like a home you had forgotten you were already standing in. And in this recognition, there is no more struggle, no more proving, no more running, just walking, just breathing, just living. You begin to live not from fear, but from trust. Trust in the unfolding, trust in your own inner wisdom, trust in the beauty of the present moment, and that trust becomes your ground, your anchor, your guide. You begin to see every experience, even the painful ones, as a teacher. You ask not, why is this happening to me? But what is this moment inviting me to see? You become a student of life, a disciple of presence, a lover of now. And in this loving, your life becomes a temple, not built of stone or ritual, but of attention. Every dish you wash, every leaf you notice, every person you meet becomes part of your practice. There is no separation between the sacred and the mundane. It is all one. It is all holy. There is no final destination, no enlightenment to arrive at once and for all. There is only this breath, this step, this moment of seeing clearly, loving deeply, living freely. The path is the practice is the path. And the invitation is simple. Walk slowly, not because you are lost, but because you are present. Breathe deeply, not because life is perfect, but because this breath is real. Wake up, not to escape the world, but to live fully within it. This is your life. This is the moment. This is the... There is a point on the path where the striving ends. Not because you've reached a final goal, not because you've perfected yourself, but because you've finally seen that you were never apart from the truth. You were never broken. You were only forgetting briefly the light that has always lived inside you. And when you see that, when you truly see it, everything changes. The world does not stop being the world. There is still noise. There is still injustice. There are still heartbreaks, misunderstandings, forgotten dreams. But something inside you no longer flinches, no longer hardens, no longer fights what is. Instead, you meet life with open hands. You meet it with a gaze that is steady, not because you've trained it to be still, but because your heart no longer needs to look away. You walk through the world with a quiet knowing. You are not here to win. You are not here to impress. You are not here to chase. You are here to awaken, to remember, to touch the sacred in the ordinary, to hold space for beauty and for pain, to be the calm in the storm, to be the breath in the rush, to be the light in the fog. You are not here to escape the fire. You are here to carry its warmth. So walk. Walk slowly, as if your feet are blessing the earth with each step, as if the ground itself is sacred, and your presence is a prayer. Let your pace be a reflection of your peace. Let your posture mirror your dignity. You are not in a race. You are in a remembering. And breathe. Breathe deeply, as if each inhale is a gift and each exhale is a letting go. Breathe in the truth of this moment. Breathe out the stories that keep you small. Let your breath be your anchor, your compass, your temple. You don't need more, you need less. Less fear, less tension, less pretending, and you'll find that what remains is enough. You will still feel pain. You will still have doubt, but they will no longer own you. They will pass through like weather through the sky, and you will smile, not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer trying to resist the rain. Your strength will no longer come from control, but from surrender. Not the giving up kind of surrender, but the luminous surrender of the awakened heart, the kind that says, let life be life. I will meet it with love. And in this love, you will become luminous. Not in some dramatic, miraculous moment, but quietly, softly, gently, like dawn, breaking on the edges of a restless soul, like a candle lit in a room that forgot it was dark. You will become a light, not because you shine for others, but because you finally see your own way. This is how the world heals, not through force, not through noise, but through people like you waking up, returning to themselves, living with intention, loving with clarity, acting with wisdom, breathing with presence, walking with grace. And so this is your invitation, not to change the world, but to be changed by your love for it. Not to fix every broken thing, but to walk gently among the peace. Not to find a perfect life, but to live this life as it is, with open eyes and an undefended heart. You are already on the path. You are already enough. You are already the answer to the question you've been asking. Now is the time to stop searching. Now is the time to begin seeing. Now is the time to come home, to this moment, to this breath, to this precious, fleeting, sacred life. So walk slowly, breathe deeply, and wake up. You are here, and that is everything.